Okay, I'm going to try this again. I've done this several times, so we'll see if it works this time. The Tarrant Family of Vermilion, Ohio, take 3. Like a museum curator, I read a long story or the short story, the subject of my family. Many of you may already know the basic story, but I'll pretend, at least for now, that none of you know anything about the Tarrant family of Vermilion, Ohio, and try to present to you something that's between the long and short. My mom, Ella Gwendolyn Tarrant Roscoe, was born in Vermilion at the print shop on the 24th day of May in 1906. She was the oldest daughter of Elizabeth Vesey and Pearl Roscoe, who owned and operated the Vermilion print shop and newspaper, the Vermilion News. The Roscoes also had another daughter, Alice Margaret, who was born on December 1st, 1911. Ella graduated from Vermilion High School in 1924 and afterward attended Sandusky Business College. She was an excellent pianist and organist and played organ for both Vermilion's First Congregational and the St. Mary's Catholic Church. My dad, William Basil Tarrant, was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, on the 10th of December in 1898. He grew up in Portland, Maine. On June 28, 1916, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and served as a private in the 103rd Artillery of the famed Yankee Division in France during World War I. In his later years, he received a Purple Heart for injuries he received during an enemy mustard gas attack. After the war, my dad and an Army friend decided to travel to Texas to hunt alligators, of all things. I assume they were hunting them for skins. They prepared for their journey, or as they prepared for the journey, Dad's buddy fell ill, so Dad decided he would take the journey by himself. On his way west, to the southwest, he saw that he'd be passing through a place called Vermilion, Ohio, and at the time his uncle, Reverend Howard Lynch, was the minister of the Congregational Church, right behind the print shop.
Which one are you talking about?
Now, whether his uncle told him to, or asked him to stop into the print shop and get a job, or whether my dad just happened to go over there because he was interested in printing, I don't know. But he did go over to the print shop, and he did take a job with the Roscoes, and he never left. My mother and father dated through her high school years, and aside from my mom, very few people could understand my dad because of his down east accent. He lost that accent rather quickly, I suppose. I don't know, because I never heard him with an accent like that. He always sounded like everybody else to me. They were married on June 11th, 1927. My brother Bill, William Roscoe, who passed away just recently in January, was born in 1928. Then 7 more children followed. My brother Philip Frederick was born in 1930, and he died in 2001. My sister Nancy Alice Emery, she was born in 1931. Don't tell anybody. My brother Albert Castleton, he was born in 1935, and he died in 2012, rather recently. Then there was my sister Pearl Elizabeth, we call her Ginny. She was born in 1938. Then my sister Eleanor Lee Slocum. Boyard. She was born in 1943 and she died in 1976 at the age of 33. And then there's me, Richard Neal. I was born in 1944. Mom died in June of 1963 at the age of 57, about a week after I graduated from high school. Dad died in 1986 near the age of 87. Most of the stats regarding my dad have the birth year as 1899, but I know for sure that he was born in 1898. Okay, that's an abbreviated version of the Tarrant family of Vermilion, Ohio. What I want to do now is show some excerpts of the 2 interviews Georgie and I did, one with my brother Billy, we did that several years ago, and the other one with my sister Nancy. The one with my brother Bill was legally blind by the time that we did interview him, and he was also having some memory problems, but if you listen to some of the things he has to say, some of them are very interesting nonetheless. And almost everything my sister Nancy says is interesting. So let's go take a look at those.
Do you remember who you hung with when you were in high school? Who some of your best friends were?
Tiny Ballog, usually. Down to the lake.
Okay, can you give us some names?
Yeah, Tiny Ballog, Jack Ballog.
Okay. Any other come to mind?
I hung around with all the kids.
Okay.
And Thompson's. Chuck Thompson, Tommy Thompson, Chuck Thompson. Who else? Billy Bond, but not as much with him.
What sorts of things would you do with your friends?
Get into trouble.
How? Give an example.
Well, we used to like to go and get along with Billy Bond because Dad run a tavern. And we could get stuff out of that tavern.
No?
What about Porky?
Yeah, Porky Jameson, Albert Jameson, Porky.
Do you remember anything special about him?
Porky?
Yeah.
No,
What was he like?
a good kid.
What makes you say that?
He was a good kid.
Was he a loyal friend or what?
Yeah.
When did you start working at the print shop? Was that after you came back from the military or before?
When did I start working there?
Yeah,
I don't know. I always was there.
you always worked there. And, well, when you say you always worked there, how did you learn to run the presses?
How did I learn? By watching.
Who did you watch?
Usually my dad and my grandpa.
Okay.
And
So you like to hang around the printing presses and watch how they did it?
and you had to keep little kids out of the ink. They didn't always stay out of it.
So what were you doing in between right before you got drafted? Were you working at a particular place or working at the print shop?
Yeah, printing labels for South Shore Packing Company. And
Could you do anything else while you were running the presses?
Me? I read. I read books.
So how did you
Feed the press?
while you were reading a book?
I just sat up there, feed the press, and read the book. The paper was there. When I needed more paper, I get the paper, put it there, and keep right on reading and feeding the press.
Okay, sounds pretty hard.
Nah.
Okay.
You had to keep the little kids out of the ink.
That sounds like it was the most fun part of your job, would you say?
What?
Keeping the kids out of the ink?
Ask one of the kids.
Where did you go first after you were inducted into the service?
Camp Atterbury, Indiana.
And then, when you were, where did you go after basic training?
Well, I went to Korea
Okay.
because you got shipped all around.
And what do you remember about those first few months while you were in Korea?
It was good to get letters from home.
And who were some of your favorite letters from?
Well, family.
Family. What branch of the service were you in?
Well, I was in the Army,
Okay. And what was your particular job?
radio operator,
Radio operator?
CW.
CW. Do you have any special memories of when you were in the military over in Korea?
Kept low.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you didn't, you got shot.
You remember how long you were there?
Probably around a year, at least a year.
Okay. Did you serve anywhere else in the military after Korea?
Nope, I come home and got out.
When did you get a brand new car? And do you remember what it was?
It was probably a Plymouth. And what did I do with it?
Was that after
Ran into a stone house.
right away or after a while?
After a while, after a few drinks. Not only that, but I was talking to a state trooper, whoops, in a bar in Baker's Tavern. I was sitting there, and I was talking to a state trooper. Then when we left, I went coming back and by, what is it, Ruggles Beach? This side of Ruggles Beach. I come around the curve, and there was a car sitting in the middle of the road, and I swerved to keep from running into the back of it. And I lost it. I hit a couple of telephone poles, and about a dozen mailboxes, and a stone house.
How seriously were you hurt?
I wasn't hurt.
You weren't hurt.
No. I might have knocked some pictures off in the house, but the car really got wrecked, mashed up. And the trooper asked, I'll always remember that, he says, "Were you drinking?" I looked at the guy. "What? You sat in that bar right with me, and we were talking, and was I drinking? Sure, I had a couple. Probably about the same amount he was, and he was in uniform."
How did you meet your wife?
He worked at a dairy bar.
Do you remember what year that was?
About the same time you wrecked that car.
That's exactly right.
When did you get married and where?
In Indiana.
September 1955.
She was.
I was there.
I know you were there. When you got out of school.
Okay, tell us about your service with the Vermilion Fire Department. How did that start?
When I was a little kid, there was Court Simons and Murder Simons, and he was the fireman, and Turcaneeding, he was his fireman. They all lived right there, right around me.
Okay. And as a little kid, did you want to be a fireman when you grow up, or did
When
it
that
just
fire
happen?
bell went off, I was gone
You always followed the fire truck?
as fast as I could run.
Okay.
And then get a car. I went a little faster.
So you always enjoyed following the fire trucks?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how did you start doing how did you become a volunteer fireman? Was that before the military, after, or what?
It was after.
Okay. And what type of training did you get while you were a volunteer fireman?
Got all the experience of all the other firemen in the company. Plus, I went to state fire school.
State Fire School.
I was always around. That fire alarm went off, I was gone. It didn't matter where I was or anything else, how old I was or anything. I was gone when that fire alarm went off. And that fire alarm used to be bong, 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 bong.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Brothers, there was Bud, and, Rich, Albert, yeah.
And how about your sisters?
Nancy and Pearl, or Jenny, and Butch was a baby, and Eleanor.
What sort of things did you do with your brothers and sisters?
We had a real good cherry tree. It was on a corner lot, and an older friend. I decided we're going to, 4th of July, we're going to shoot firecrackers. And there was this here nice cherry tree, and there was a woodpecker hole in the cherry tree. And we crawled it there and dropped this firecracker in that woodpecker hole. Bam! We blew the tree apart. Crashed down the cup. And it was the best cherry tree.
So what did your mom do about that?
What could she do? There wasn't no cherry tree left.
Oh.
It wasn't our cherry tree anyways. It was right on the corner of the lot.
Oh.
Our lot, the lot next door. We just blew it apart.
Do you remember any spankings in your family?
Any spanking? No, I never got spanked. Is that a lie?
Anybody?
Yeah, it's got to be. Between you and Phil, it's got to be.
Yeah, there was lots of spankings. If you was bad, you got spanked.
Do you have any final comments about life? Any words of wisdom about life and your life that you might want future generations to know?
Enjoy life, period. There's only one life, and you only have one life. Enjoy it. And you got brothers and sisters that are good. Sometimes they're a pain, but they're good.
So family must be very important.
Family's very important.
Members of my family. I had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. I have a brother Bill, Phil was deceased, myself, Albert, deceased, Ginny, Eleanor, deceased, Zella, Butch, deceased, and then Richard Neil Tarrant. I'm very much alive. Now what am I doing? When did my family first came here? My mother was born in the apartment upstairs, as was my Aunt Alice. Roscoe's came from Milan. Not originally, but anyways. Dad came from Portland, Maine. He was born in Nova Scotia. He was naturalized in 1900. He was in the Army, World War I. He came out this way after the war, stayed with his uncle who was a minister, Howard. got a job as a printer because he did this as a child at home. He had a little printer, and he married the boss's daughter. Boss's daughter graduated in 1924. They got married in 1927 and had these 8 kids after that. How you like that? My family did for a living, right here in the news office. Oh, you know what I did once when I was a little kid? When I was in school? Grandma had the store downtown, the gift shop. And I used to go down there. Can you imagine me waiting on people as a little girl, putting my hand in stockings, selling stockings to show them the color? Can you imagine that? Oh my gosh. Okay, that was my living. I didn't get paid for it. So I remember myself in the high chair, sucking my thumb, going like this with oatmeal. Then I remember Albert, when he was born, laying on the bed, little red-headed baby laying on the bed. That's all I remember back there. That's as far back as I can remember. First grade, I started first grade I was 5 years old. I went to State Street School for 2.5 years. We moved in, I was in 3rd grade when we moved over to the addition to South Street School, and my class was the last one to move. I went home for lunch, and my brothers already were in the new school, and I cried because I wanted to be in the new school. But I got over there before the end of the day. Oh, when I went to school, first day of school. Today, when you go to kindergarten, you have to learn everything before you even go to kindergarten. When I went into first grade, on each desk, Miss Jane Buck was the teacher. She was a new teacher. She had our names, our first names, on a card propped up on each desk. That was the first time I saw my name written out or printed out, and that's how we printed our names, learned to spell our names. We were dumb back then, I guess. Now, 2nd grade, I was in Jane Lutz's 2nd grade. She was a new teacher. And for a while, she lived with Aunt Alice. Anyways, when my sister Ginny was born, I was in 2nd grade, I guess. Jane Buck, the 1st grade teacher, was a neighbor. I was downstairs in this restroom washing my hands when she came in, and she said to me, "You've got a baby sister." And that was Ginny. Otherwise, she was born, and her name was really Pearl Elizabeth, but it went to Ginny. She was Ginger, and then it went Ginny. I stayed at my grandparents' at that time, and I would not go home. I did not want a little sister. I had 3 brothers, and the heck with a girl. I didn't want a sister. I wouldn't move back home. And the doctor told my mother, "Leave her alone, she'll get to go know her sister." Well, I finally went home, and I did. She's today my best friend. I had a brother, Phil. He and I were probably closer in age. At one time when we were both young, I had a nice wicker doll buggy, and everybody in Vermilion knew everybody, every kid in town, every dog. They knew every dog, every kid in town. But anyways, we could only come from Perry Street to Grand Street. That's as far as we were allowed to come. Well, I had this doll buggy. So Phil and I took a walk. We walked down to Sandusky Street, under the undercut, came back up Liberty Street, stopped at Baumhart's drugstore, got an ice cream cone, and come home. But in the meantime, my folks found out where we were, and we weren't supposed to be down that far. That was way past Grand Street. I don't know what happened. We probably got bawled out or something. We might have got spanked, who knows? There was a salesman he sold the paper for the office, for the newspaper, and that Mr. Duran. I don't know if he come out of Cleveland or where he came from, but every time he came, he always brought me a little gift. Well, one thing I always remember what he got me was a Shirley Temple doll and also a dress that matched the doll's dress. Well, Ginny was between 1 and 2, I guess. I put this dress on her. It went to the floor, and it was so cute on this little girl. She was so cute standing there with this dress on. This little girl that I didn't like, that I got to like. I got to love her, I guess. Dad was 28 years old, see, when he got married, so he wasn't 21 like they are today. But every day he walked to work, he came home for lunch, he walked from Grand Street to Perry Street. And as the older ones, we always went to the corner to meet him, up Ohio Street and Perry Street corner. Well, we had foot races. Dad was a great runner. We had foot races that block. And he did things with us older kids, I guess, that the younger ones didn't get, because he was older at that time, although he did take walks. But he did like to walk. He walked up until the last parade, I guess. He was in that he was in. Well, oh, my favorite subject was gym. We had our own basketball team, Tarrant and Company. We had alumni games. I was out of school then. I played after I got out of high school. I played alumni games. Well, the one year, I don't know, it might have been 58, might have been 58, 59,
Close enough.
58. Thinking about when Bobby was born. Anyways, I was a forward, and my sister was out of school, and she was guarding me. Well, she was a runt. She was short, and I was a little bit taller. And I was good for hipping people. And I hipped her. And Sarah Welker yells out, "Foul on Tarrant." And they put Ginny making the foul. I did it, and I was married at the time. But Tarrant was Ginny, so she got the foul called on her. I remember that. I don't think she liked it too much. But that's what I liked best in school. I did like, in first grade, I'll go back being first grader in the playground at school. Now, you couldn't do this today, but this boy and I used to walk around the playground with our arm around each other. Now, today you wouldn't be able to do that in school. But I guess he's supposed to be my boyfriend. I don't know. He was a neighbor kid. And then in second grade, I was pretty bad. Another boy that lived in the neighborhood, I threw him in the mud puddle outside the school. I could still see him in the mud puddle, and I gave him a black eye. I was pretty nasty. Let's see, by the time we hit third grade, of course, we got into the new school. And all the kids played in the playground. And they had, what is this, merry-go-round they called it, that thing you hung on to and went around in circles? Well, there was one boy in the school, not in my grade though. He wasn't too well liked. I guess we were bad kids. But anyhow, I was shaking, and I was on one side shaking, and he was on the other side. Well, he shook off, and I cracked his head open with it. I was pretty rough with him. Well, the kids all were happy for me. Miss Croft comes out, wants to know what happened and who did what, And one of the other boys in my class started to tattle, and she nailed him. She never did give me heck. She didn't know who did it, but he was going to tattle, and that was not the right thing to do. So, and I broke one of my girlfriend's wrists, and I broke it and knocked a tooth out at another time playing on the teeter-totter. That's the bad me. I had a real cute Scottish-like skirt and a tam to go with it, and my brother Bill and I, we chased him around the house, outside the house, around the house, until we got him stripped of his clothes, so we could dress him in my dress, the skirt, and made him look like me. Our punishment at home was having to sit on a dining room chair and watch the others play. That was one of our worst punishments that we had.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I can remember working is delivering Vermilion newspapers on Thursday after when they were coming off the press. My brothers and I both went through the town, downtown, and we'd go into the stores and the bars, and we would sell newspapers every week, and 5 cents a copy. I think that was our pay, was the 5 cents. We got to keep that. But we went into Fergie's and the whole works downtown. That was the first job. Anyways, my next job probably was, I delivered Sandusky registers, and we went city limits at that time. And I delivered Sandusky registers. I even had my picture in an ad of theirs once. I thought that was great. And then I also delivered special delivery mail. This is during the war. Special delivery mail before I went to school in the morning, because there was one girl that really got mail, I think, from her boyfriend all the time. He was in the service, and he must have wrote to her every day, I swear. But she was kept me busy. Then I got a job. My brother Phil worked at Okagi's restaurant in the kitchen, and I got a job down there. I was 13 as a drink girl. You started out as a drink girl, and then you moved on to a dessert girl, and then eventually you got to wait table. They were very nice down there. Clara Straley was, she's the best person to work under, because you never sat around and did nothing. And when you weren't busy, you cleaned cupboards, or you were busy all the time. Every morning, or when I went to work, Mr. Okagi would be there. This is terrible, but every time I went to work, he chased me around the counter until I said, "Hello, sir." They called him sir. But the one that there was a fellow that used to come in and sit at the counter, and he'd sit there and say, "I want peace and quiet." I won't name him. Somebody might be related to him. So I worked up. I was waiting table a little bit, and then Jim Hart came after me. I was in high school, to see if I would come over and work at the drugstore. So yes, I'll go work at the drugstore. So I went over and became a soda jerk. But I also, when I wasn't busy, I wasn't used to not doing anything. I'd go over to the other side and put supplies in, or kept busy while the other girls sat there talking to their boyfriends. And I also then did magazines. When the magazines would come in, even after I quit working at Hart's, I would go back and do their magazines. That's where I guess I met my husband there. The drugstore. He and Dick West used to come in to get chocolate milkshakes after they got through work. And he was going with some girl or dating this one girl, and I went to school with, and why, she's older than him. I thought it was terrible. She was older than him, although she went to school with me. Well, then I ended up marrying him, and I was a year and a half older than him. So I guess it didn't matter. Okay, my next job. I worked at, did I work any place? Oh, I worked here. I came here and worked. During the war, though, I was in school, and they had airplane spotters. They had them up at behind South Street School there in a football field. They had built something up on stilts with a telephone in, but I went and airplane spotted with an airplane spotter. I don't know what, but I was in school then, high school, junior high, and then we moved down to Helen Stone's home down on the lake, and her basement, which was level with the beach, had a compass built in. Was part of the floor. It was this compass. So that was much easier, because when we called in, we could tell the direction much easier that way. Because we had to call in and give what we thought was the distance in which direction they were going. The planes were going. Oh, I worked here. I kind of grew up here. I've got a picture of me at that typewriter over there. When I was a little kid, it was, I don't know, maybe I was 3 or 4. I don't think I was 4 yet. I don't know. I wasn't in school yet. But it was really a cute picture of me. I changed a lot. I mean, I didn't go, just being there, and I ran the line of types. I did that more so, but set hand type and proofread, and ran the Kelly. I ran that one press that's out there, not the little one that we did labels, but not the Heidelberg, but I could run those other two. The linotype I enjoyed doing, and I enjoyed it when I'll go back to George Wakefield. I haven't been back to him yet. George wrote a column every week about the Civil War. Well, the one gal that ran the other linotype, she typed what was written there. If you had something and everything was spelled wrong, that's the way it went. But George's writing was, first couple of letters was you could read, and the rest of it was just shh, like doctors do. So I would sit there at the typewriter and type